Hello everyone and welcome to a brand new edition of Game Tales, a show where we talk about a great many things for an hour or so, and today's topic is a bit different. Since we talked about BlizzCon last week, we thought to ourselves, why not try and expand on the concept? So, Stefan, would you like to tell them what today's subject is?
Good morning, afternoon, dear viewers. While yes, Unicom, I would love to tell our listeners what today's subject is, and today's subject is basically Game Tales News Roundup Issue 1. When we're just gonna look at some of the main things that made it into the gaming news from the past week or so, and we're gonna talk about those and comment on them, because I really enjoyed our talk about BlizzCon, and I really think we should give this a try. So that's what we're doing. And you, our dear listeners, let us know, give us feedback in the comments if you like this sort of thing that we are doing on Game Tales right now, as opposed to our normal walks down memory lane.
We await your feedback.
Yes. This is actually very important to us, because we do this all the time, as in we talk about this stuff all the time, but in private, and
we don't usually record it. Now we record it, and
yes.
we will try and swear a bit less. Turns out YouTube has been restricting all of our videos for the last 4 months or so, that's why they don't have any views.
Pretty much, yeah. I'm gonna that's gonna be my next nonsense cast. Actually, I'm gonna next week's nonsense cast is gonna be basically a PSA about restricted mode. Maybe we'll have to make a Game Tales part about it next week as well.
Possibly. The thing that bugs me is that the Year.game series is restricted too, and I don't swear a lot in that one. But I do use footage of video games that may be a bit violent.
Yeah, that will never have any sort of way to win that particular argument. But anyway, let's go on with our first news roundup ever.
Do you want to start with the very, very positive and cheerful one?
I totally do, because there's so little this sort of news relating to gaming news that I think it should have way more attention than it has.
So it's Warframe fans ask developers to avoid crunch. Crunch, if you don't know, is the way that games are developed usually involves there being a lot more work than there is time for that work. So people will sometimes, in quotation marks, voluntarily spend 12, 13, 14, 20 hours a day at work, sleeping under a desk, just working 24/7 almost for weeks and months and years. I mean, Diablo 2, great example of a game, was made basically in 2 years of crunch where nobody went home. Same with StarCraft, same with a lot of games.
Yeah, it was constant crunch for Diablo 2, which is insane. I mean, we've touched upon this subject a couple of times throughout our series, and we always said we might have to talk about this at length, but I don't think it's going to change anything. However, when it comes to this sort, I think this is the first time this has happened. Now, maybe I'm more than willing to be proven wrong on this one, but I think this is the first time that the actual community behind a game asked the developers to take their time.
I'm having a hard time of remembering if this has happened before. I sort of feel like it has, but I cannot give you an example. So I plain don't know if it did before.
But even if it did, it didn't make it to our ears. This has made it to our ears, most likely because of the very recent issues relating to this coming from the Red Dead Redemption 2 talk, and prior to that the CD Projekt Red, their particular reputation with that. And that's why I really like to focus on this and to spotlight it a bit more, because you don't hear this, you don't hear about this. And just as a by the by, it should be noted that a positive thing in the gaming community has considerably less upvotes than the downvotes a negative thing has. That's just to give you an idea of what gaming communities tend to focus on. Which I don't know. I don't know if it's an actual real reflection of that or representation of that. Usually, it's much easier to hate something for what it isn't than to love it for what it is.
Negative stuff tends to get a lot more attention in any sort of media, like in any case.
Yeah, absolutely.
Unless it's a video of a kitten falling over, that's the only thing that can get more views, more attention than something negative. Anything else negative
and probably get you banned from YouTube.
Yeah.
That you have a point that is true, and there's been lots of studies, and there is hard data relating to how having a conflict type word or a negative sort of type word in a title, in a headline, will actually garner more clicks than if the content would be the same, but literally you would have a different type of title for it. So this of a gaming community asking the developers to not crunch, this is extraordinary, and I would like for it to be a beacon, a sign of things to come. I hope.
That may be hard because Red Dead Redemption sold 17 million. Red Dead Redemption 2, the one that just came out last week or so, 2 weeks ago, sold 17 million copies. So crunch works. Sort of pun not intended. Actually, crunch overworks, if you will.
Ah, there he is.
Yeah.
That's the punicum.
Yeah. It was inevitable.
Yeah, that is a problem. There is no other way around it. It's a problem, especially if, like me, you would want to work in the industry, but also like me, you kind of want to have a life beyond that.
It's difficult.
Yeah, and I don't know if we will ever be able to vanquish the demon that is crunch, but I hope maybe in time, maybe through shows like the one we're doing right now.
Well, probably not ours, but like
that people that people will get a better understanding of what actually goes behind making the games, and they understand that it's actually being made by human beings who need to live, and maybe they have wives and kids and dads and sisters and brothers and stuff like that.
Well, I remember a story from when they were making StarCraft. A guy just took his laptop to the hospital where his wife was in labor, and he was holding his hand and programming with the other one.
Yeah, that's just insanity.
Yeah.
That's not. But kudos to the Warframe community.
They know against crunch.
Have you played the game? I don't know. I'm aware of it, like reputation wise, but I have no idea what the type of game is. It's just passed me by because I'm focused on my indie stuff usually.
Do you know the term LOTRO shooter? So World of Warcraft, but with guns, basically.
Oh, okay.
Well, it's sort of that, but it also has swords, and you can play as a space ninja. The initial version of it was kind of rough. I didn't really enjoy it, but it has gotten so much better over the years. It's an amazing game. It's the reason why Destiny 2 is a failure on PC and will become a failure on many other platforms.
Well, it's also Destiny, so that's why it's a failure.
Yeah. They're giving it away for free. Nobody's playing.
Okay. Literally. Hey, please play this. Come on, guys.
In the spirit, they're even giving one of the last DLCs for free. Like for a limited time, you can play the latest DLC from Destiny 2 for free.
That should be in hey, that's part of the game of the news roundup. Yeah.
I don't really know what DLC. I just know it's one of the. There was a pop-up on Battle.net when I started up today.
So super thumbs up from the Game Tales team to the Warframe community, and we really hope that we'll get to report on these sorts of news and these sorts of stories in the future.
Yeah, when having a family life and working in the gaming industry is something that is possible.
Here, here. Next.
So we ran into something unexpected. Actually, you ran into something unexpected. You learned that Lord of the Rings Online is still online.
Yes. So we were talking about potential subjects that we would be talking about today. Before, I think it's called in the business world. I think it's called a production meeting.
Ooh, aren't we fancy?
Yeah, aren't we fancy? And you were like, Lord of the Ring Online opens the doors to its progression server, and I'm like, wait, what? How is Lord of the Rings Online still, online? Because I was under the very mistaken impression that it had died a long time ago. Because I actually played the game.
It never lost control.
I actually played it. I think I actually played it when it was released, because there was a period of time when I was testing out MMOs. So I played Lord of the Rings Online, something else that I forgot the name of. I played Eve and World of Warcraft, and World of Warcraft 1. So when I decided to play World of Warcraft, I actually did some market research, and that's when I started playing World of Warcraft. And I have literally not heard a peep from Lord of the Rings Online after a couple of years after that. And now you tell me that it's not only still going, but it's actually doing stuff. So Take it away, Ern.
So Lord of the Rings Online is getting progression servers. There, if you can imagine, it's like a vanilla server, but it's not meant to stay in vanilla. The idea is that MMOs, they're evolving. They are not a snapshot of a single frame in time. They continue to evolve and change as patches go in, as stories are put in, and so on. And that's the idea that the progression server is built upon. You start at where the game started, at Shadows of Angmar at a level 50 maximum, and over the course of several months, you will gain a higher level cap, the map will expand, you will get access to new content, well, the content that would have been new were this 2008 or 2009. You basically get to relive the experience of seeing the game grow and evolve, which is something that may be a bit more valuable than just having a simple snapshot of the game as it was in one particular moment in time, I guess. Would you like to see something similar happen to Warcraft? I mean, World of Warcraft will start with vanilla, with no expansions, right?
Yeah. Well,
would you like it to see progress to the Burning Legion?
Burning Crusade.
Yeah.
Maybe think about doing that. What you have to be aware of is that leveling in World of Warcraft, like in vanilla, was not an easy thing to achieve. So getting to the 60 level cap for someone like you and I, at this point in our lives, when we would have, let's say at the very max, maybe a couple of hours a week to dedicate to that, it would take us months. So the amount of end game content that it would take a long time for us to reach the end game, and then it would take an even longer time for us if we want to run raids, because we would need to get geared up, get attuned, like get the proper professions so that we can have like specific items to help us get, so on and so forth. So doing that in vanilla WoW, it's gonna take a bunch of time to begin with.
Well, continue, please.
No, at a certain point, they probably will want to add Burning Crusade to it, because Burning Crusade was arguably when they started getting into a groove and they improved a bunch of stuff. It will still be difficult, not as difficult as vanilla version, but it will still be. and the content will be interesting. But just playing through the 60 levels of vanilla WoW, trust me, it's gonna take, unless you have 8 hours a day to spare. It's gonna take a lot of time, and then there's still gonna be like just logging in to hang out and talk to the guildies and see what's going on, and maybe do like a quest or two, or maybe do a low-level dungeon. That sort of stuff is gonna happen anyway. So I think it's gonna happen, but there's not really a ticking clock on it. If you get my drift.
Well, Lord of the Rings Online will actually try and make the progress even slower. They are reducing the XP gain rate by 40%.
Whoa.
So that everybody can just take their time. Nobody's gonna get to the max level and wonder, well, when's the next thing happening? Because they are going to go slowly through it, and because the expansions happen every 4 months, so people know when they drop.
The thing about vanilla WoW is that the drop rates for minor quest items were considerably lower.
Oh, I know that kind of experience from Call Online. Getting a single quest item would take you like ages. People would be selling them for millions.
The example, well, it's not that bad, but the general example is about a quest in the Barrens for the Horde, in which you have to find 4 zebra hooves.
Oh, I just saw a Penny Arcade comic with gnoll paws. And none of the gnolls drop paws, but you have 4 of them.
Exactly. None of the zebras drop fucking hooves. So, and I remember, that's one of those quests that takes so much. And I wanted to say a bad word now. Time.
No, we won't say bad words anymore.
I'm trying to. I'm trying. Let's see if that works. So much time to get 4 MFing zebra hooves. So yeah, trust me, it's gonna take it's gonna take a while. But trust me also when I say that when you go questing with friends, like just imagine you, myself, and maybe a couple of my friends or someone else interested in vanilla, the experience is so much richer than you would think.
Well, I know. There was similar quest in Voice Engineering Online where I had to get frog legs. So I went to, I think it was...
That's tasty, by the way. In case you ever get to eat frog legs, do not pass that shit up. It's... God damn it.
I went to Corsica Island. That's where all the frogs spawned. There were like hundreds of them. I killed a lot of them. None of them were dropping
France?
legs. No, they were in Corsica. That's where the quest took place. None of them would drop anything, and I was going a bit insane and started talking to myself, and that's how I made an alt character called Pufu. That's if you ever see a Pufu name in the memo, that's where it comes.
That's when the dynasty of Pufu started?
Yeah, I started talking to myself, and I made a character talking to myself, and then the guildie showed up and started helping me, and eventually we all laughed and cheered, and that horrible, horrible quest was ended.
Yeah, it's kind of like that, but not really. It's just the idea is that since people like us won't have that much time, whatever time we do spend in the game is going to make like even the most minor of quests have the importance it should have, like in the grand scheme of things. Mm-hmm. It won't just be, I got to do this, then I got to do that, then I got to do that. Also, keep in mind, in Vanilla WoW, there were no markings on the maps.
Oh, cool. So you have to...
It doesn't tell you. Yeah, it doesn't tell you where to go. It doesn't show you where to go. It tells you in the description, like, it's northwest of this region, but it doesn't show you where to go.
So you have to learn where the bear ass... Oh, damn, I said a bad word. Though we know that there was a quest with the bear asses.
Okay, so we're not getting this one. Yeah. It's gotta be restricted. Let's still give it the oldie college try.
Okay, well, let's
granted there's like patches that have that type of quests, but if you want the true vanilla experience, you're gonna play it without those and just spend and waste so much time running around the map and getting killed by stuff that is way higher level than you are. because yeah,
it's the old adage of if something hits you instantly, can't run anymore.
Yes, except if like you're lucky and if you're playing a shaman and you have the ghost wolf thing, that can help you a bit.
Otherwise, you are not in luck.
That's not gonna be. Yeah, no, you're gonna have to respawn. That's
That's a bit that annoys me in most MMOs. Is the moment you get hit by anything, you forget how to run.
I don't think. No, you can still run in WoW, but they tend to stun you.
Also, you don't get slowed down. Because most of the MMOs I played, once you sort of engage the combat scenario, your running speed is slowed by a lot.
No, I don't remember that happening. It usually happens because if you are hit whilst running, you get stunned. You see my point? And then you can't run while you're stunned. But you can try to run again, but then you get hit again, and it's a chain of you dying slowly.
Oh, so it's still kind of horrible.
It's still kind of the same thing, yeah. You have a better chance of just standing and fighting, unless you're a hunter. A hunter has an ability called basically feign death, so you have a chance to make the mob think you die, but you don't die. So there's that. Yeah,
I think Tabula Rasa also had that. It was a fun ability. You could actually disguise yourself as an enemy. And pretend to be one of them.
That's also cool. Oh yeah, and just don't in Vanilla WoW the rogue abilities. Rogue had a lot of
sneaky.
Yeah, and a lot of CC. So usually when you would run raids, you'd have to point out what mob does what and who from the team takes which mob. So we're like, oh, the diamond rogue sapped that guy and warlock stunned that guy and that sort of stuff. So it's way more fun than you think. Anyway, enough about that. Let's talk about the next thing.
Do you want to keep on the Blizzard theme, because we have a few more news about Blizzard as well down there?
Let's continue on that theme. Sure.
Okay, you go with the Warcraft 3.
What is it about Warcraft 3?
You get to play it next year, early next year.
How? Oh, is that like quotes?
Oh, it's quotes in the sense that it's official. You're gonna play it early next year.
Well, that's great, but doesn't it say something like it's a pre-alpha sort of stuff?
Well, it's a beta that's sort of a pre-alpha. The words have started having meaning. I mean, pre-alpha maybe. I think at one point they had meaning. I mean, alpha used to mean something, beta used to mean something. Now beta is a demo of the final version, and alpha is the beta, and pre-alpha would mean it's still
just
alpha.
Drawn on napkins. That's where are we going with this?
Well, technically, I think Star Citizen is still in pre-alpha, so it's
been in pre-alpha for what, 10 years now?
10 years. I think it's 3 years. Since the first playable version came out.
Sorry about that.
Or the best 3 or 4 years. But so that thing is more finished than some other games. It's just not going to be done anytime soon. But the single player component is probably going to be out next year. But Warcraft 3 Reforged will be playable in a beta type of scenario. For example, let's see. It's going to be a multiplayer, I think, early next year. The sooner we can get it out, the better, is what Blizzard said. So
that's very un-Blizzard of them.
Well, it's still going to be done when it's done, but it's going to be done next year, and they already said it.
Well, they did say that. Yeah, they said like before, like the end of next year. Yeah, I'm not a big fan of paying to do bug testing. This is why I have a huge issue with pre-ordering and that sort of stuff, and the beta stuff that Bethesda are doing. Now, by the way, I really loved the video you made, because unfortunately it shows how little Fallout 4 you played.
Basically none.
You have 0 Fallout 4 survival reflexes. But that's just, I mean, you've never played it. I've logged in more than 200 years in the years. It seems like it, but it's 200 hours. in Fallout 4. So yeah, I have. There's a couple of things that you learn whilst playing the game that you should have been doing, but you weren't because you don't know the game. But I'm still not a big fan of me paying money to test your product. Am I just crazy in that one? Is it just me?
No, you're not, but that's how the software industry has been going for a couple of years. I mean, take Windows, for example. Microsoft fired its program ethically. They had a department like of 400 people that tested stuff out, like with machines that were designed to have automatic tests for stuff to not break. They fired them.
Have you seen the recent FAP that Windows does with the most recent of updates?
Oh, you mean the October one that got pulled and still is not available?
No, not another one. That
the one that deactivates Windows.
That downgrades Windows Enterprise or Pro to Windows Home.
Yeah, it deactivates it.
Jesus.
Windows. It's
holy damn. But that's not on our docket, actually, of news.
It sort of is because it ties into something else that I want to talk to about.
Sure, go for it.
Also, ray tracing is a very, very neat feature to have. I mean, you will finally have the ability to see light as it should be in video games.
Allegedly.
If you've seen the Quake 2 run with a community-made ray tracing engine, it looks more realistic than anything you've ever seen. It looks like it's claymation, like everything is sculpted in clay, when it's just really crappy textures and models from 95 or 96. But it looks realistic. It's all in the lighting, all in the shadows. Well, if you have a RTX series NVIDIA graphics card, you still don't have any game that uses that. And because the Windows update that is needed to actually enable that is not yet out, you still won't. So Battlefield 5 is going to be officially out in a week, on the 20th, I think. And it still doesn't have RTX in the pre-release Origin Access version. There is no support for ray tracing for anything in there. So you probably won't get it at release either. So it's been 2 months or so since the new graphics cards were released. And the top selling feature, the reason they exist,
their name.
Yeah.
The reason their name is RTX because it stands for ray tracing.
Yeah. And there's nothing you can use them for. The worst of all is the 270 is kind of not all that a big of an upgrade if you already have a 1080. The 280 is not really an upgrade if you have a 1080 Ti. The only one that's a considerable upgrade is the 2080 Ti, which costs over $1,000.
No.
And they kind of die within a couple of days of being used for some reason.
Holy damn. Well, to be honest, let's be a bit honest and say that whenever it comes to any sort of new breakthrough sort of technology, it does take some time for it to be implemented, and then for the devs to learn how to use it. And it's been that way with all new technology. Like in a couple of years, it may probably become like standard.
Oh, I hope so, because ray tracing is just amazing.
We still don't know for sure. I mean, this has always happened with all manner of technologies. There's always been winners and losers.
Yeah, one of the big losers that I really am sad is lost is DMM, digital molecular matter. It's the idea that you can set a property for a material in game and it'll behave like that material. It was a big feature of The Force Unleashed. They had that testing video where they showed how wood would rupture like wood if you threw an R2D2 through it. It was amazing. And that thing is now part as standard of the Gamebryo engine. It's by default in there if you have the version that was available like in the last 5 years and not the NetImmerse version that Bethesda licensed 20 years ago and still uses and will still use.
Don't we have? I think we have some news about that one.
Yeah, it turns out they're gonna still use the creation engine that they have now for Starfield and Elder Scrolls 6. Now, it is going to be a bit upgraded. Exactly, is they're gonna upgrade the new. It's gonna have a new lighting system, a new landscape generation system, and I should know that's what Fallout 76 has. Pardon, I read it wrong. So it's still going to be the same technology. So here's the big question. Are you still going to have to load the interior of a house in the Elder Scrolls 6 if you go into it?
Isn't that part of the engine? I mean...
Yeah, that's kind of how the engine that they've made works.
From my relatively limited knowledge of this, that's a big... loading entire areas of assets.
They're all based on cells.
Yeah, so I would imagine that's part of the engine. Now,
also, it tends to have physics tied to frame rate, which is a bit of a problem in Fallout 76 currently. So they lock the frame rate.
I'm not gonna, when it comes to frame rate and MMOs, at least at the beginning, I went through basically a year of PUBG. So I'm like those, I've been burnt and forged in the fires of horrible PUBG netcode. So I have a lot of I give them a lot of slack on that particular thing. But what I will not give them a slack is on using the same engine. How long have they been using this engine?
Morrowind.
Wow.
So it's 15 years. They've upgraded, like they've improved upon it, they've added new stuff.
Obviously, Fallout 4 doesn't look like Morrowind.
But it's still the same technology at its core.
So my counter question for you would be this. Do you think they're doing this because of the console market?
I think they're doing this because they have a really efficient way of developing games with their current engine. I mean, they made Fallout 76 like I don't even know how long it took them to make it, but they made a huge, gigantic game with the tools that they have built over the course of a decade for this engine. So they have a pipeline that is smooth, that is perfect. It's just that the engine itself is kind of has problems. They require a bit of finagling, like in the underbelly. It requires someone to go in there and slay the beast and replace it with a kinder beast that doesn't snarl and bite you.
And then go and find all the punch cards and destroy Exodus.
Yeah.
I don't know. So I didn't really think of it in that way, but you make a solidly valid point that I was thinking it's more because they might be waiting for the next generation of consoles, and maybe in the background they're waiting to reveal a new engine for those.
Well, they said that they're going to use the same engine. They're going to use the creation engine for Elder Scrolls 6 and Starfield, which are for the next consoles.
Yeah, so that's where my whole theory just went to the poop closet. Yeah, I don't know what to tell you about that. Hopefully they make it smooth enough. I don't really know. I don't really know what to say about this, because it's you'd expect those sort of improvements, but I don't know.
We have engines that still contain modern engines, still contain parts of older engine. For example, I think the up to Black Ops 3 or maybe Modern Warfare 3, there was still bits of Quake 3 in the engine code of those games.
Oh,
because the Quake 3 engine is really fast. It still runs like magic. It's still a perfect engine. And on top of that, you can add all sorts of rendering stuff that makes it look better. But the core of it still works. It doesn't have major issues. This one, however, kind of has. I mean, how many times have you had to add a patch that allows the game to use more than 4 gigabytes of RAM when it comes to Bethesda games? At least twice, I guess. Like Fallout 3 in New Vegas. And Skyrim.
Man, it's been so long since I played those. I can't tell you. I cannot remember.
Well, the games are the engine was made in Morrowind times when nobody had more than 4 gigs around.
That's true.
Everything was 32-bit. Everything was 32-bit. So why bother? So they didn't bother. Courageous.
Well, you can't blame them for that. They were just working within the limitations of the time.
So it's okay to be a bit forward-looking, like when 64-bit operating systems are the norm.
That is true. That is true. Well, yeah.
It's the same problem that StarCraft has, because when it came out, there were multi-core processors all over the place, but it still mainly used one core. So my hope is that with Warcraft 3, the remaster that's going to use the same engine, they will up it to allow the use of more cores.
Yeah, I imagine they would do that, because they remade models, man. They remade cinematics. They changed the whole game. Maybe they fidgeted a bit with the other things as well.
I hope so, because
one can hope.
Yeah, making a single-threaded engine multi-threaded is not an easy feat to achieve. It will cause some problems until they get it exactly right.
Yeah,
hopefully they manage to.
Idea is the idea is that even the single core from today, I think if it's not more efficient, it is as efficient as the processors way back when. So it might cause a bit of a problem temperature-wise, because the temperature wouldn't be very well distributed on the CPU. Mm-hmm. But otherwise, I think our current technology can deal with that. By the way, have you seen that video from Jay's 2 cents I sent you?
Yeah, I have. So
wasn't that really? I mean, I never knew CPUs can do that.
Well, Intel has not had a very good 5 years. They were supposed to be on 10 nanometer in 2016. It's 2018. They have. There was a rumor a couple of weeks ago that they canceled 10 nanometer. They said no, we have not canceled it, which is odd, because the normal response from any company is we do not comment on rumor and speculation. That is always what they say. Not in this case. And now, because AMD had its own reveal of what its new products for the enterprise sector last week, or actually this week, now out of the blue, Intel announced, December 10th, we're going to do the same. Be there. We promise we will tell you things. Please don't leave us.
We'll tell you things and stuff.
It's important because Intel used to have a roadmap, like from Skylake to Cannon Lake. They had a roadmap. You could see this year we'll do this. You could see that like almost a decade in advance. It was the most beautiful thing imaginable. They have nothing now. We have no clue what they're planning, and most importantly, the people that buy thousands, tens of thousands of chips from them in the servers, they have no idea what's happening. And here's AMD saying, hey, remember that motherboard you bought from us in 2017? Yeah, that's going to support every CPU we make until 2020. And here's one that has 64 cores and 128 threads.
Threadripper.
Oh no, that's Epic. Epic Rome. It's made with chiplets.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I'm behind the times. Sorry about that.
So I'm going to explain chiplets to everybody that's going to probably turn off the video now.
Yes, I think it's going to be a good idea to go into that for a bit.
So here's what a chiplet is. Normally, the way you make a CPU, what we did up until now is we made a gigantic block etched into silicon and, stenciled onto it all sorts of circuits, transistors, everything that we had to. And that was one big block. That's how it worked.
Super tiny transistors. Yeah. Very tiny transistors. Yeah. So tiny, like they're starting to be like close to the size of electrons.
Yeah, anyway. The electrons are getting confused now as to where they should go.
Yes, it's becoming an issue.
That's how they were made. But let's say if a speck of dust got in the wrong place there, that entire chip was unusable. At best, you could cut out a part of it and sell it as a cheaper, worse chip. Like,
Which is what they do, actually.
Yeah, that's mostly what they do. But if your aim is to make the big, expensive chips for data centers, that's not a good idea. Yeah, so AMD came with we're going to just make smaller bits and couple them into multiples of 2 or 3 or 4 and put them on a die. And it's sort of going to be like two processors glued together, if you will. And Intel started laughing. Oh, that's not ever gonna. That's not a real. That's not a proper CPU. Ours are big. They're magnificent. They're better, and they were right. Intel CPUs were still faster, still better, still more efficient, and they cost more because if there was one speck of dust, that entire CPU was ruined. And now Intel has sort of adopted the gluing. They've announced that they're making a 48-core CPU for the data centers that is made out of 2 packets of CPUs glued together, just like the Threadrippers, just like the Ryzens. And now AMD announced chiplets, which is the same concept, but they're cutting even more of the needless parts of the CPU and just making them even smaller. So a chiplet is just the cores with access to, I think, only the PCI Express lanes. There's no memory on them. There's no memory access. I mean, I think there is cache. There's no memory access. There's no I/O on them. And they can scale those up to however much they want and put them together next to a big chunk of silicon that has the memory controllers, the I/O, and I think there may be some level 4 cache in there. And they can basically make CPUs that have as many cores as you need. Currently, there's 64 because that's how much they can fit physically on the the size they designed for the Epic and Threadripper CPUs. But in the future, they can just expand that because there's no limit.
Yeah, we this our miniaturizing technology in terms of transistors is kind of almost reaching the physical limits.
Yeah, I think 3 nanometers is going to be the last one, and that's going to be like in 15 years.
So we're kind of getting close to that point in time where the only thing that will be able to increase computational power whilst not also proportionally increasing the size is going to be like we need a sort of a quasi-quantum leap. We need like an evolution in technology. And I think that's where quantum computing is going, or what that's trying to be. But I think we're still like at least 5 years from getting something that is, actually functional.
Well, quantum computers are quite versatile and quite powerful, but getting them like in quantities more than one is kind of still really hard to do because they have to be cooled like at a temperature that isn't really sustainable if you're running like a data server somewhere.
You know what the answer is, Unicom?
What?
Send them into space.
Oh yeah.
So you can have like satellites that basically are render farms for Pixar movies.
You send them into space and keep them on the dark side of something and have a gigantic heatsink on them that's liquid cooled. Actually, they're going to have to still lose heat somehow, and radiation is really a bad way to dissipate heat. So maybe underwater would be a better solution. Because you're going to have an ocean.
Yeah, because that's exactly what you need to heat up the ocean from the bottom now. That's not helping, Unicom.
No,
that's not helping.
I know. That's even worse.
If we put them in space, at least now those would be beacons for aliens. Like something is scanning, like, whoa, that's a hot spot there.
Oh my god, that's an AMD FX 9000 series. Somebody launched it into space.
Nuke it from orbit.
Well, the basic idea is that the new AMD Epic Rome CPUs that are made on 7 nanometer look amazing, and because they look amazing, the Ryzen 3000 and the new Threadrippers may look even more amazing. So if Intel doesn't announce something really big on December 10th or 11th, next year may be really great to upgrade to AMD.
Hey man, I've been a Ryzen user since last year. You know that.
Well, you haven't been one for like 2 months.
Well, I haven't been one for. I can't clearly tell you if it's the fault of the processor yet. I don't know if that's. I know if it's the processor or the motherboard, but you've seen the results and you've compared it to what you have right now, and you were like, that's kind of good, but I have to wait. You have to wait to upgrade, so that's totally fine. But I've been very satisfied with the Ryzen, except for the fact that it doesn't have like an integrated graphics chipset.
Well, if they're gonna make them all 7nm, they're gonna have a lot of room on the chip now, because it's gonna be the same size for the CPU that you have now, but a lot of room will be empty, so they can probably fit an integrated GPU on that as well, because they have it. They have a small series that does that. I mean, it's like I think it's less powerful. Less performance than the full-on Ryzen. Yeah, but I think they already have that, so they know that's something their processor range lacks. I think their cheapest one is like $30, and it has like, if you're gonna make a really, really cheap gaming build, like for League of Legends and some Fortnite, you basically can buy that CPU. It has a GPU, that really small GPU in it, and it will run them.
Yeah, I actually saw videos with the tests for that, and that's very doable. I mean, you could build yourself a moderately powerful gaming rig for the types of games you just mentioned with that, and maybe like a mini ATX, and that's make it small as well in case you don't have a lot of space.
There is potential.
Yeah.
Hey, speaking of processors, have you heard of what kind of processing software the PlayStation Classic is using?
And that right there, ladies and gentlemen, listeners, is what we in the business call a great segue. I think I heard something about them using an emulator of sorts.
Gasp!
Sigh. I think that was the wrong reaction to that one.
Yeah, yes, possibly.
So the PlayStation Classic is just, it's been announced that they're using the rather open source PCSX emulator for their new product, which you'll be paying money for.
Yeah.
Which is ironic in several ways. The first thing that I thought about was, didn't Ubisoft do something worse than this? Didn't they use a no CD crack as an official sort of patch for one of the Heroes titles?
Twice. They did it twice. They did it once with Rainbow Six Vegas 2.
Okay.
And then with the Heroes one, I believe.
Okay, I was only aware of the Heroes one.
And Nintendo doesn't sell you an original dump of their Super Mario Bros. Code from an original cartridge that they own in their vaults. They downloaded it off an emulator site and sold it.
Yes, they downloaded the ROM. You're right. Damn it! Yeah, I totally forgot about it. But when I saw that piece of news, I remembered of Ubisoft. The thing is, kids and gents and ladies and gentlemen, that PlayStation or Sony, sorry about that, Sony actually sued. This was in when was this? The mid-90s, the end of the 90s, I think.
I think it was the end 90s. Yes, somewhere around there.
They sued an emulator producer, basically, an emulator creator that allowed for you to play pirated PlayStation games, basically, on a PlayStation 1. And they lost the
court battle.
What do you call it?
Court battle trial.
Yeah, they lost the trial. Sorry about that. I just completely blacked there for a while. They lost the trial, but the company that was making them was a small thing, and so they were really drained of resources, of finances from fighting the court battle. And then Sony bought them up and killed the emulator. Basically.
Woohoo! Victory!
So that's what happened. That's like in general what happens when there is some sort of small grassroots independent either innovation or turning the tables on like a huge corporation. They're either sued into oblivion or bought into oblivion, which is something that Microsoft tends to do with a lot of game devs for whatever reason.
Yeah, there's. I think I actually forgot to write on the list the important thing that we're supposed to talk about today. So
yeah, but I brought it back to it. So
okay,
come on, give me a bit of credit.
Okay. But
go.
In this case, Sony is using the open source emulator for PlayStation, which is made by the community, by random people, and they are allowed to use it. It's perfectly within the guidelines, and your license agreement, the agreement for licensing of the emulator. And this has been seen by some as an acknowledgement by Sony that the community has done something magnificent. Others see it as Sony just, let's do the cheapest thing possible. Let's do that. What they've done already. Let's profit off the pirates, basically.
It is a bit of a what we in the business call a dick move. but it's also really seriously ironic for the reasons I mentioned earlier.
When I started playing the Silent Hill series, I had no clue that there was no PC version of Silent Hill 1 because the one that used the emulator was just so damn believable. Like, it was so good, so well made. So I understand perfectly why they chose it.
It's I think it's all of the things we talked about. It's ironic, it's a dick move, it's the fact that the community did create such a good product for nothing. But how about that Microsoft stuff?
Yeah, that the Microsoft that may still be buying Obsidian stuff.
Yeah, so what we're going to talk about now, you need to take with a certain level of salt, because it's all going off of the tweets of a dude who claims, I guess it could be tested. We didn't do the testing. We're going to just be honest here. He claims he invested $1,000 in Pillars of Eternity 2.
Through Fig, which is sort of like a Kickstarter made for gaming, but instead of just pledging money and never seeing anything for it, you can invest the money and get some money back when the game is profitable.
And the idea is, whenever you invest, the developer in this case, I was thinking about the producer, but the developer in this case has like a business plan sort of thing. So it tells you, well, we expect this amount of revenue after this much time. You'll be getting a dividend of whatever percentage. And the amount that he got as the first dividend would roughly, because he didn't do proper math and we sure as hell didn't either, but the dividend that he got was somewhere like 5 times smaller than it should have been.
So for his $1,000 investment, he got $192.
Yes. Which means that the game sold roughly 5 times less than the company, than Obsidian projected initially.
Yeah, they wanted to sell around 580,000 copies.
Which, between you and me, that's insanity to begin with.
Yeah, I mean, it is a bit more realistic than remember Tomb Raider, the reboot of Tomb Raider.
Okay.
Square Enix announced that it sold 4 million copies and that it underperformed.
Yeah, but
4 million.
But we're talking about different niches here.
Yeah.
So for an old school type sort of RPG, 500,000 units in what? Has it been half a year?
I think it was released in May.
So half a year, basically. 6 months, close to 6 months. 500,000 units of Pillars of Eternity 2 in 6 months, I think is an optimistic turn for it. I think they way over assumed, they over projected what the response would be, and I don't really know why.
Well, I think the Original Sin 2 may be the reason, because that thing sold over 1 million copies in a year.
I think you have. I think they maybe took that, but those are, while similar games, they're definitely the same genre. They're like generally similar. They are quite different beasts. So, and they have different communities also. I mean, I'm sure there is a bunch of overlap between players of one and the other, but there is a much more, at least my take is that the community behind Divinity Original Sin is much more tightly knit.
Yeah, and the developers are a bit more open, I should say. I mean, I just got a key.
They're a bit more indie. Yeah, they're a bit more indie.
I got a key for Divinity Original Sin just by randomly stumbling into some discussion with Sven on Twitter.
Oh, that's nice.
Whereas with Obsidian, I would have to go through PR, and I didn't know exactly through which PR, because they don't work with Paradox anymore.
I, on the other hand, didn't get one, although I got into a discussion with Sawyer as well about basically the semantics of sword fighting. So, yeah, there's that. But cool on you. So maybe they looked at that and they maybe overestimated the... I guess they grossly overestimated what their community could actually support. Because I'm not saying the community didn't do it. I'm just saying I think they thought it was much more stronger than it actually is.
Yeah.
And it has to be said that the news, the news flow, the news items or reports relating to Pillars of Eternity 2 died off considerably quicker than the ones about the first Pillars of Eternity.
Yeah, that one just kept rolling because, well, for one, they had Paradox doing a lot of the PR, all of the marketing.
Ah, okay. So there's that.
And, well, with this one, there are times when I forget it was released, honestly, because I didn't have a chance to play it. I didn't ask for code because I didn't have time to do anything with it. But with Divinity Original Sin 2, I got the key. It was always there nagging me. Play me. So I did.
Also the news articles relating to Divinity Original Sin 2 also continued for a long, long time. Even quite recently, there was one about the enhanced edition, or like the after a year release edition.
Yeah, the one they said they weren't going to make, but they made anyway.
Yeah, it was money, man, money.
It's actually free. Like, people get it for free.
Oh, sorry about that. Okay, then I'm just a cynic. So now everything we said, you have to take with a grain of salt. We take it with a grain of salt. Obviously, we actually are kind of. And I know nowadays this apparently is like a bad word, but we take our particular brand of journalism seriously. So we kind of, ideally, we try to confirm stuff. In this case, not really, because there's no way for us to confirm it. So hence the grain of salt. But assuming that what this guy says is valid, then this makes the rumors relating to Microsoft purchasing, taking over Obsidian, that much more realistic as well.
Mm-hmm.
And those are the types of rumors that don't just pop out. I mean, there is usually something behind them. And now that we have this little bit of extra info, which again might not be perfectly just as described, but it's kind of dubious for it to not be a thing at all. I think this might explain why they would be willing to be,
bought
out, taken over by Microsoft. Because I think they're aware that Microsoft buys indie devs and shuts them off.
Well, initially, after they purchased them, something good may happen, and then they get killed off.
Ah, okay.
So it's like a praying mantis, if you will. It starts off good, and then not so much.
I think that's one of the best analogies that can be made relating to Microsoft's relationship with
Death by snoo.
Exactly, with computer developers that they've previously acquired. Where are they? So what's the number of victims by now? Is it over 10?
I think Bungie's the only one that escaped. Bungie bought itself out and ran away.
I think it's around 10. I'm not exactly sure, but I think it's about 10. So yeah, now that makes me a bit more. So before having this piece of information, I was like, maybe they're making like a strategic point. Maybe they have a strategic choice. Maybe they have like this very expensive game they want to make, and maybe they need like an umbrella to like a safety net. But now it sounds more like a move in order for them to survive, which makes me think makes me fearful that Microsoft will kill them eventually.
Well, if they do, I hope they wait until the project that Tim Kaine is working on gets finished first.
Yes, because he is working on something. We that's less of a rumor, that's kind of like a confirmed rumor. So we're pretty sure from several sources that he's working on something,
including Tim Kaine himself.
Yes.
He keeps posting images of him and Leonard Boyarsky.
Yes. So we don't know what they're doing. We're hoping it's post-apocalyptic awesomeness, but coming from those guys, doesn't really matter what the setting is. It's most likely an RPG and a cool RPG. So yes, it's we have to wait for more news, I guess. That's it. But I'm feeling less optimistic now.
Oh, we'll see how things shape up. Hopefully they'll be fine. Hopefully.
Yay.
Maybe.
Hope springs eternal.
Yeah. It's like at the end of Legacy of Kain Defiance, when Raziel gave Kain the worst gift possible. Hope for the future.
I thought it was just like a link to 4chan, but that's me.
No, I think the series was completed before 4chan really became an influence on things.
So where are we time-wise?
Wait, stop. Whatever those guys just told you, they are wrong. They are from the past. They know nothing. But we know something, don't we, Stefan? We know something they don't.
We know so much more than they did in the past of yesterday when
those
we recorded
losers,
that.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is the first time we also do this because we need to record. Basically, we're patching our Game Tales episode. So
this is a day one patch because basically you're downloading the podcast and the patch with it.
Exactly. So we were speculating and we were talking about the reasons behind Obsidian maybe getting, so we're still saying maybe getting purchased by Microsoft. And a couple hours after we finished recording,
1 hour, like literally 1 hour,
the news hit that Microsoft did not only buy Obsidian, but they also bought inXile.
So basically they bought Interplay.
Yeah, I was going to say that. I was going to ask you, so correct my math, but isn't this the first time since Interplay when basically the majority of Fallout creators have been under the same collective roof?
Well, there was Troika. A lot of them were Troika.
Oh, I forgot about that. Okay, yeah, but that one failed for very valid reasons.
But this is they're rebuilding the team kind of. But they don't have the Interplay name, which is something that Brian Forga actually wants to buy. He said a couple of weeks ago that if Bard's Tale sells like 1 million copies in a year or two, he's going to buy Interplay. Will that still happen? Because now he has Microsoft money behind them. And
Yeah,
Interplay needs money because it doesn't have anything else.
Yeah, but I don't know. I don't know if Microsoft wants to get into that bucket of syrup. But the fact that they bought not one but two quite major RPG making game devs kind of makes me a bit less pessimistic about them, dissolving them. Because if it was just Obsidian, I was like, okay, they might just disappear soon. But now that it's Obsidian and In Exile, I think maybe they just want a foothold in the RPG market.
They want to have their own Bethesda. They want to have their own Bioware kind of.
Yeah,
their own company capable of making RPGs for the next generation console.
That's kind of what I was thinking as well. And this might be good. This might also be not that great. Watching both of the companies' YouTube announcements, obviously they say they're still gonna have their own company culture and they'll be independent and they'll be working on the same things. That is a load of bull.
Oh, absolutely.
Because I mean. No, that this stuff just doesn't work like that in the world in general. It's like, hey, we give you this money, but we have absolutely no expectations of you whatsoever. You just do your stuff. No,
you don't have to change your color. You don't have to work like you used to in new ways. You can keep doing what you were doing, but you just have to make exclusive games for this platform that will fit this platform specifically with these criteria, with this target audience, with this.
Yeah, and so that's just maybe their culture won't change for like the very the very close future, for like
the near future,
maybe a year or two,
2-3 years. I think they're going to do fine, like absolutely fine. 2-3 years.
They still have to support the games that they've just released and that sort of stuff. But we'll see what happens. I'm pretty sure. I mean, it's a clear move from Microsoft by buying off Obsidian and In Exile that they do want to muscle into the RPG territory. So these two, the resources, I'm talking about the people from these two companies, will definitely be merged within for Microsoft projects. Why would they have bought both of them otherwise, if they were not intending to merge them and to make, I don't know, Halo RPG
or more Fable?
I don't think so. Probably Fable, yeah.
Just
Fable
think,
MMO.
What would a Fable game written by Obsidian look like? Because your character can only talk in farts and emoticons.
Well, I think they would. Hopefully, they will. They will bring a lot of their own, particular brands of RPG awesomeness to the mix. And hey, let's look at let's try to be positive about this. So we'll just have to wait and see. But this is kind of massive news for any really hardcore / old school RPG gamer out there, because Obsidian and In Exile have basically been the only real medium sort of size devs who have been putting out the types of RPGs that we want to play.
Well, and Larian as well.
Larian, sure. Yeah, okay. I'm sorry about it. I tend to forget about him because I haven't played. I didn't manage to get Divinity Original Sin 2 because it was way too expensive for me. So, I do, on the other hand, have Pillars of Eternity 1 and played that one and really loved Tyranny, as you well know. And I've been a backer. I backed both Wasteland 2 and 3. So that's why I'm way more invested in Obsidian and In Exile than Larian.
I wonder if they're going to help develop Wasteland by giving it more money for a bigger budget. I'm curious if that's going to happen.
Technically speaking, that could happen. They both of the companies said, both of the devs said that one of the the main thing that they're really looking forward to is getting basically tech support from Microsoft, like specialized people in all manner of departments that they don't have, or because generally in these small to medium sized developer companies, one person has to do several things. But in a place like Microsoft, there is just like various people focusing on one aspect and really excelling and being super duper professional. So we just have to wait and see, because technically speaking, we should be able to get if we get like an In Exile or an Obsidian RPG, but made with Microsoft level resources, then those would be some of the most insane in both scope and detail computer RPGs that have been done up to date. But I don't want to be that optimistic. Microsoft still wants to make money.
Yeah, but the question is, will they make money by investing money or by beating somebody until they're just like twitching and beating a dead horse and stuff?
I don't know. We don't know about that. And
are they gonna milk them until they die, like they did with Ensemble, or are they gonna actually invest in them?
We don't know, man. We just have to wait and hope to see where they're going. I know there's a bunch of so Microsoft does have quite a few developers under their wings that haven't been buried yet, at least, or who have been producing some stuff. And I don't know.
Yeah, they have bought a lot of them recently because they closed down the ones they used to have.
Yeah, well, that's not great. That's not great for the future either. But the idea is, at least for the near future, both In Exile and Obsidian needed financial stability. And Microsoft is definitely capable of offering that, at the very least. And we'll just have to wait and see what happens. Because if Microsoft, if we know for sure, so since they bought them, they obviously bought whatever projects they're already working on.
Yep. It's wholesale. Like, they bought everything with their IP and everything. They own everything now.
Yes. So who knows what could come of that? Bad stuff could be
I can imagine one bad thing, and that is whatever games they make in the future not coming to GOG or Steam, just a Windows Store, and that would be murder, because that means that those games will not support mods.
That would be a massive issue. That's true. On the other hand,
can you imagine a game made by Obsidian without mod support?
Well, does Pillars have mod support?
They all have.
Oh, okay. Wasn't aware of that.
So think about what would have happened with Star Wars The Old Republic, Knights of the Old Republic 2 without mod support. It would have still been unplayable.
That is bad. But again, they would also have access to a larger team, so maybe less dodgy, buggy stuff would get through. I don't know. We just have to wait, and hopefully, whatever the rumored Baldur's Gate 3 is still gonna go forward, and whatever the two guys are working on might still happen. But now, since Microsoft will definitely do some shuffling around of stuff, but probably not immediately. But I think projects that were in development will be paused. I think, as in not in development where they're actively working on, like conceptual type of stuff. I think that's gonna take a break for a while until they get their marching orders.
Yeah, hopefully they won't do something like try and make one of these studios create a Halo MMO and spend $90 million on it and then cancel it and then shut down the studio again.
We can only hope. I don't know. I think, are people still playing Halo? Is that still a thing?
Halo is still a thing, though the last one was kind of the game, because the company that they founded to handle the series after Bungie escaped, 343 Industries, sort of decided that maybe Master Chief isn't the main character of Halo.
Okay.
And they were wrong. Really, really wrong. Nobody liked the new character.
That is
and they have announced the new Halo Infinite that's going to come. That's going to be revealed next year. They revealed it at E3, but they showed nothing from the game. Sort of like Starfield and the Elder Scrolls 6. It was an announcement more on paper, if you will.
I see. Well, so yeah, I don't know. Big news. We really had to patch the Game Tales episode because this is gonna go up on Monday, and by Monday this is already gonna be like a day and a half old news, and it would have just sounded really weird for us to be talking about something at a rumor level that in the meanwhile was not only confirmed but actually piled onto.
Well, so keep in mind, at this point, we have no further information other than the studios are bought and they will have some sort of independence up to a point currently. There have been no announcements of what's going to happen from this point on. It's still Sunday, nobody's at work, and nobody's, giving information. We're going to have to wait for more details.
Yes, and obviously, when those pop up, we'll definitely talk about them in a new news roundup sort of episode. But yeah, unless you have anything else to add, I think we can now go back to the past.
Yes, let's go back to the past and see what we used to do back when we were so young. Remember those days, those times, man.
Yeah, gotta go back to the past.
Blizzard wants to make more mobile tie-ins for its games, its franchises.
Because the Diablo Immortal announcement was so well received.
Funny thing about that, the reason why the guy said if this was an April Fool's is that in 2014 they made a Flappy Reaper April Fool's joke, where it was Flappy Bird but with the Grim Reaper from Diablo 3.
Okay.
He'd go around collecting souls, and so that's the reason why it's an April Fool's. But the thing is that they have a lot of franchises that could work on mobile. Hearthstone is already on mobile and it's working perfectly.
That one, between you and me, that one makes sense.
Yeah,
as a mobile game. That kind of, I have nothing against Hearthstone being a mobile game.
And we used to constantly talk. Before tablets were a thing, there were touch screen monitors. You can even convert a normal CRT monitor to a touch screen by putting it on a giant base that basically detected where on the screen you were tapping depending on the force, the angle, and all sorts of stuff. It wasn't a commercially successful thing, but it was a thing. And we kept talking about, man, how cool would StarCraft be with a touch screen? You should just imagine how quickly you could issue commands to units. I don't think that's what they're going to do. They're probably going to do something like StarCraft Rivals, like Command and Conquer, because that really went well as a reveal.
That went well. That went really well as well. And I kind of got the same type of response to that one as well. China, man.
Yeah.
You just had an entire show about that. And you made a lot of.
I forgot to mention one thing, and that shows that Hollywood has been doing this for a while.
Oh yeah.
I've seen movies made specifically for China, like the one with the rock and the skyscraper. That is tailor-made for China.
Now you're coming more into my domain.
Yeah.
Yes, China has become a major investor in Hollywood movies for a while now, and if you haven't been paying a lot of attention, which is fine, movies are supposed to be entertaining, or I particularly see them as I use them for escapism and whatnot. But if there's a scene or like a chunk of the movie that tends to take place in, let's say, Beijing, yeah, that's not there because the writers initially thought of it that way. No, that's because they have Chinese investors and they need to appeal to the Chinese public by representing them on the screen. Mm-hmm. This would be a different discussion about representation and seeing diversity on the screen. but they're not doing it for some sort of like ethical or moral reason. Oh no, they're doing it for the oldest reason in the book: money.
Also, because it's not just that they are being funded by some companies from China, but the audience is gigantic in China. It's
it is. I mean, nowadays there is. So I'm not. I don't have all the data, so I don't want to talk out of line when it comes to this stuff. But there's a lot of movies now that make a certain amount of money in the US, but they make way more than that amount of money worldwide, especially in China.
There, by any chance, have you seen Crocodile Dundee 3?
No, why would I? Who would want to watch that?
Because Crocodile Dundee 3, there's a bit there where they explain how to make overseas movies, like in 4 countries, have huge ratings in those countries. You get a big, well, not big, but okay-ish name Hollywood star, and put him in as the main character of the movie, and then have a lot of secondary actors from that country as, stars in the movie as well, but not the main one.
Point taken.
That movie is guaranteed going to be a big seller in that country.
It is, except for Bunraku, unfortunately.
I don't remember that one.
Bunraku is... Oh, yeah, so here's Stephen Nonsense's movie suggestion of the week. If you're interested in seeing a very... it's somewhat artsy, but not over-the-top artsy, but really abstract. An abstract post-apocalyptic sort of story. Look up Bunraku. Bunraku. Which is basically a Japanese term. It's a movie that stars Ron Perlman as the villain. There are some bit parts by Demi Moore and another guy who's the
Josh Hartnett.
Josh Hartnett is one of the protagonists. So he is the protagonist alongside Gakt, I think he's Korean or Japanese singer actor sort of stuff. But the movie was shot in Romania.
Cool.
And you see Romanian actors in it. That's the thing, speaking English. And the idea behind Bunraku is that after a massive now we're just going all over the place, but I'm just going to continue because it's a great movie. Mm-hmm. After a world war, all the peoples of the world got together and they banned firearms.
Ooh, like Australia did.
All kinds of firearms. So any sort of conflict that would resort to violence can only be solved by fists or blades.
Oh, that sounds amazing.
So basically your skill. So you have, and the protagonists are literally a cowboy without a gun and a samurai who has decided to not use his sword. And a bunch of stuff happens. And it's really nice because the movie is approached kind of like a bit like Japanese theater. Bunraku is a term from Japanese theater. And when they change, instead of cutting from like one thing to another, the frame goes kind of dark and you see the setting change behind them, like in theater. Oh, and then it starts up again. It's a very artsy, abstract sort of experience. So yeah, check out Bunraku, by the way. Sorry about that. But no one's talking about Bunraku, and as per usual, I'm gonna have to be the one who does and gets 20 views. But whatever.
At least you're fighting the good fight.
I'm trying. Me and 3 Dog. Ow!
Yeah. I don't think we have any more subjects on the.
No,
show.
I think we have a pretty meaty, heavy show with a lot of news, and I really hope people enjoy it because I really enjoyed talking about them all.
Yeah. Hey, do you want to end with what we were playing in the last week? Have you been playing any games in the last week?
Yes, I actually have. So thankfully, due to my passion for indie games, a bunch of them are quite playable on my laptop as well. So what I've been playing is something called Deep Sky Derelict. It's going to be finally released, I think next week. And imagine basically Darkest Dungeon spliced with a Warhammer 40k Space Hulk.
Ooh, that sounds nice.
So it's kind of like that thing. It's not that that doesn't go into the depth of Darkest Dungeon, but it's basically, it takes place in space. You have various classes. You can take 3 people in a team, and then you fight. And also it's roguelike. So you can it has permadeath and a bunch of things. I actually covered it on my channel a long time ago when it was just going into early access. So if anyone is interested, they can check out that video. But yeah, they've added a whole lot after that, since that time. And I'm going to see if I can maybe try and get some footage and maybe make a quick video for it. But otherwise, I will definitely have a nonsense cast about YouTube's restricted mode next week. So in case you never knew that existed, I'm just going to do a quick public service announcement about that next week.
You can just post a screenshot of all the videos that aren't there.
That would be hard to do, but because it's like, so I have like 150 videos that are visible in off, as in those. That's the total of my videos, and I think something like around 57 of them are restricted. So yeah, that's not a good proportion. Anyway, we'll talk about that in my show, and if anyone's interested, we'll definitely talk about that on the next Game Tales. How about you? What do you have for next week?
Well, I'm going to start with what I've been playing. I've been playing Duck XCOM. I've kind of forgotten its full name.
Mutant Year Zero thing?
Yeah.
That looks like the bomb, man. I'm really looking forward to. I would really love to get to shoot stuff with ducks. But yeah, on this, I haven't had time.
You should try Duck Game as well, because that is specifically a game where you shoot things with ducks, other ducks.
I know about your weird duck obsession.
They're awesome.
And I know about Duck Game. But I know this Duck XCOM thing, really, I would really enjoy it because of the XCOM. Do they quack? That's my question.
The duck actually talks.
Yeah, but does it quack?
But he talks in duck puns. I haven't heard him quack yet.
Oh, damn it. Because I would imagine like, quack, quack, stuff like that. Like
I must have been playing it with the really low volume because I was recording for most of the time. I made a 1-hour show about it. I wanted to be shorter, but I kept waiting until the duck flies to get enough points to get the wings for the duck. And the duck does fly in the video. It ends with the duck flying.
Splendid. That's the best way to end a video about a game with mutant anthropomorphic ducks.
One thing I regret is the game doesn't have a zoom in feature, so you can't really see the fine details because it looks amazing. Graphically, it has magnificent detail. Like, it reminds me a bit of Trine and its artistic style, but it's like a grimy, more realistic version of Trine in the way that everything is built.
With ducks. Ducks.
Yeah.
That sounds interesting. Yeah, I remember seeing like a trailer for that, and it was really interesting. But since my computer issues and my insane backlog, I didn't even attempt to contact the devs about that.
I think it may work. I mean, I was running it and recording from it while Rainbow Six Siege had forgotten to shut down and was still using 30% of the CPU in the background.
That's great.
Like, I shut it down, but it was still running.
I'm gonna yeah, so that's I'm gonna look into that. But I've been I'm kind of much more interested now a bit into city builders, to be honest. So I have a couple of those. I've been kind of pondering the idea of making some type of like monthly video where I just spotlight some titles that I'm looking forward to. I'm thinking maybe that would be of interest for someone. I don't know. On my channel, not here. But because I have interest in like turn-based tactics, RPGs, city builder, so maybe it would be interesting for other people to get to know about some titles they would otherwise not hear. Because the types of games I play, they rarely get any sort of actual, mainstream coverage, and that's what I try to do, and that's why I have no watch time on my channel, and half of them are restricted.
Yeah, that's what happens when you try to do something good on YouTube.
Exactly. When you don't shock mice or film dead bodies.
Yeah, well, we may still do that at one point if things get too rough.
If things get too rough, yeah, you visit Raul, just shoot him a bit, and then you're gonna try to bring him back to life and electrocute him. So that could work. Well, I think he'd be up for it.
Well, he's in Poland now, so who knows?
I know. When he returns, he'll be up for it.
So on the channel coming up next week, there's a gaming codex about survival games, which I could have sworn I did last year, but apparently not. Then there's a top 7 of greatest acts of desperation in video games, because developers sometimes did things to make sure that their games get popular, like Bethesda made a $1 million contest to save The Elder Scrolls Online, so people would play it.
Well, that's interesting. You just bought yourself one view because I'm interested in it. That sounds weird. Granted, I tend to watch your videos in general, but again, that's it's important. These teasers are important for me. Continue.
And history-wise, I moved Blood up next week and said I put Shadow Warrior last. The video that's before this one, the history one. I put Shadow Warrior because I didn't have time to replay Blood, and I haven't played it in like ages, and Shadow Warrior was fresh in my mind, so I put that. But next week is going to be Alien Trilogy, which I had forgotten was a shooter. Okay.
I was thinking, what, the movies? I'm like, what? Since when are you busting it in my turf?
There was an FPS named Alien Trilogy, which was really good apparently back in the day. I didn't play it, but I keep finding it on lists of nostalgic first-person shooters. I tell myself, okay, I'm gonna do that.
Okay, sure, go for it, bud.
And next week on Play Now, because it's the anniversary of Ebony Spire Heresy, I'm gonna have a video of that. Ebony Spire Heresy, by the way, is a game made by a friend of mine, so I'm shilling for him again.
Yes, I made a video for that game as well. And now that you mention it, I think I might have to do that as well. That one definitely runs on my laptop.
Which ties into the gaming culture video of the connection between game devs and the media.
Yes. That's gonna be that's whoa. That's a heavy subject.
I know. Well, that's all the stuff on my in 2013 that game. That's the usual. That's all the stuff on the channel coming up. In the next podcast. Theme.
Yes. So, thank you for listening. If you've listened up until this point, we crazy appreciate it. Just so we're clear, and do let us know in the comments if you like this particular format, because we obviously had fun. I think. Did you have fun, Unicum?
Absolutely.
It was considerably less introspective than we'll still do our normal shtick, but we would really like to spice things up with the occasional, because sometimes there's just like we had to cover BlizzCon. There was no way we would not cover BlizzCon. But sometimes there's just a week when a bunch of weird stuff happens in the gaming industry. I mean, it's usually just like, releases, there's some bugs here, there's like someone other. But this week we had quite a bunch of really fun and funny subjects to talk about. So
yeah, we didn't even cover the League of Legends K-pop sensation.
We can save that for that. That's still going to be a thing. I think we can always talk about that like sometime in the future, pretty much. But hey, it made me interested in League of Legends first time ever. So it worked, I guess.
I'm not going back there. I'm not
going to play the game. Don't get me wrong. But I have listened to way more K-pop than I've ever seen or done anything related to League of Legends. So let's just leave it at that.
You should at least look up the Romanian translation for it, because the voice acting is on spot. It's amazing.
The voice acting for what? The
League of Legends.
The game.
The in-game characters have amazing voice acting in Romania. Like Braum, he's like a Scottish guy. They made him Ardelan in the game, and it's amazing. Like it fits superbly.
That sounds interesting. Okay, so someone did the research. That's fun. Anyway. Yes, so let us know in the comments if you enjoyed this, because we sure did. And don't forget to maybe check out my channel as well, because I really need the watch time, please. Thank you.
Just remember, don't activate restricted mode if you're watching Actually, you don't have it on because you're seeing this video. You dirty bastard, you.
Hopefully not. Yeah, I go into that a bit. I go into that for a bit actually in a couple of days. There's going to be the Nonsense cast, so I explain what it is, how it works. Technically speaking, it should be an opt-in feature, as in you should opt to go into restricted mode. But this is YouTube we're talking about, so I don't really trust them.
It's a mystery. It's magic.
Until you check, you really won't know.
Yeah. Well, that'll be it. So tune in next time, people, and goodbye.
Thank you for watching. See you next time.